Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jeff's Dungeon/Den, your one-stop shop for all things health, wellness, and fitness. I know it's been a while since my last video. Sorry about that. I've been dabbling in a lot of different things recently. Um, but anyway, in my last video, about 5 years ago, I discussed the differences between fear and anxiety and how they both present themselves differently. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 different effective strategies that I've used to cope with anxiety. These are strategies that I've learned and have implemented, and they've worked for me. So whether they work for you or not, experiment. If they work, keep doing them. Great. If they don't, then try something new. But strategy number 1 that I've tried: don't try to fight and escape the anxiety. It's easy to feel anxiety or worry and immediately try to participate in a distracting activity to escape it. You say to yourself, I don't like feeling this way. So instead of facing my anxiety head on, I'm going to figure out how to make the anxiety go away temporarily and essentially mask the symptoms. I'm going to push it off, right? I'm not going to allow myself to feel it, but you have to let yourself feel anxiety in order. That's your brain's way of telling you, look, you have some issues you have to solve, and I'm not going to let you forget about them until you take steps to resolve them. Alcoholics may actually drink to escape the worry. In the past, if I felt anxious, I would use online poker as an escape, or I invested thousands of dollars a month into daily fantasy sports to escape the anxiety of loneliness. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what I was doing. During football season this past year, I literally played about 10 grand a month in daily fantasy sports. I did have a strategy. It wasn't haphazard. So I was profitable. My strategy worked. But I learned through a lot of self-work that the reason I was so into daily fantasy sports was to escape my anxiety and loneliness and just my general feelings of lack of fulfillment in my life. And that's a huge reason some people may turn to alcohol. Um, it may not be alcohol, it may be drugs and other addictions. Even a seemingly positive activity like exercise can actually be just simply be a mask for unresolved anxiety and other issues. That's not to say exercise is not good. Exercise is great for anxiety, but it becomes an issue when it becomes excessive and you're turning to exercise just to get rid of the anxiety. We use these strategies as coping mechanisms to escape our worries. So strategy number 1 is to face your anxieties head on. Sorry about that little wobble. My cat walked into the tripod. Face your anxiety head on. Don't try to numb the pain or the symptoms with distractions. It won't solve your anxiety. It will only delay it and make it come back tenfold. So now on to step number 2. Make a concern list. When you feel anxiety, write down in a journal what is worrying you. That alone is enough to help you feel some relief, because your brain this way is essentially telling you, okay, this person has a strategy. He has a way to address these concerns that I'm feeling. Now I'm going to let this person enjoy their hobbies. I'm going to let them focus on work. I'm going to let them focus on things that are fun and not constantly remind this person, hey, I'm anxious, deal with it. All right? So sometimes people might feel anxious simply because they forgot what they were originally feeling anxious about. They know they were worried, but didn't really remember why. So making this worry list helps you remember what you were anxious about in the first place. And this is a great way to begin to face what is making you anxious head on. And this leads me to step number 3. Schedule a time to address those concerns. Now, I know that especially when you're feeling really anxious and you've been feeling it for a long time, especially if you kind of know what the issue is, it can be very challenging when you're feeling anxious to schedule time throughout the day to worry. But it helps to have your worries written down and schedule time in the day to address them directly. Not just worry about them, but come up with strategies to address them. This can help prevent you from feeling overwhelmed and prevent you from feeling that you'll never solve these problems. So some of these ways you may be able to figure them out on your own, and resolving others may require the help of a therapist, especially issues that you're not sure how to resolve or issues that come from way back and you really don't know how to begin. I actually started doing therapy a little bit ago, and they can help you figure out where your anxieties come from and help you come up with strategies to address them. Step number 2 leads to step number 3. Question your anxiety. Push back against it. I mentioned in my last video that oftentimes anxiety can help us. It can help us meet deadlines at work. It gives us adrenaline if we need to get out of a fight or flight situation that requires it. And lingering anxiety allows your subconscious mind to tell your conscious mind that something is wrong and needs attention, which is kind of what I mentioned in the beginning of the video. Anxiety was primitively built to help us, but not all the time. We feel anxious when our brain senses danger. But what about phobias like claustrophobia on an airplane, or agoraphobia, the opposite of claustrophobia, the fear of open spaces? So there are people that were involved, especially in the Vegas shooting from a while ago. These people might develop agoraphobia if they're in open spaces. If they were in that shooting situation from the guy on the 24th floor or something, you might develop a phobia. Or entomophobia, something along those lines, of fear of insects. So these are most likely anxiety-provoking situations that can hold us back. So push back against your brain when you feel like you're going to have a panic attack. This leads us to strategy number 4. You can write it down first and eventually start going through the process in your brain to talk yourself down. And step number 4, I know I mentioned in my past videos, and this one's helped me a lot. Make a list of the worst possible outcomes, the most likely outcomes, and the best possible outcome. So for example, in I think it was 2 videos ago, I used my example of trypanophobia, the fear of needles. And when I need to have blood drawn, I get anxiety. So when that anxiety starts kicking in, I go through 3 steps in my mind. Anytime I dread getting blood drawn, or even when I was lying on the table having my blood drawn, I like to put the worst case scenario first just to get it out of the way. So the worst case scenario in my case was maybe I pass out. Feels awful in the moment. I've done it a couple times before and I'm still here. There are really no long-term ramifications from passing out. But the most likely scenario is I get a little lightheaded, which is what happened last time. I did not pass out. Get a little lightheaded, maybe feel a little nauseous, maybe lose my appetite, but it'll come back. And the best case scenario is I prevent a small illness from becoming life-threatening. So oftentimes when you're in anxiety-provoking situations, when you weigh the pros and cons, it's easy to logically fight your subconscious anxiety. And this leads me to strategy number 5. Remind yourself that you've been there before. You have felt anxiety before. Maybe you even had an anxiety attack. And guess what? You're still alive. You were fine. You might feel tightness in your chest. You may feel your stomach churning. You may feel like you're going to die, which is surprisingly common for people having anxiety attacks. They feel like they're about to die. But just remind yourself that you've been there before. You've felt this anxiety before and you made it. Strategy number 6, stay in the moment. I know it sounds easier said than done. And you've probably heard 10,000 times, when you're anxious, focus on deep breathing. But it actually really does work. And you want to make that your only goal for the moment, right? Don't think about today. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about anything except breathing. And I started using what I call the 3-3-3 technique. So you're going to breathe in for 3 seconds, hold steady for 3 seconds, and then breathe out for 3 seconds. So it's and count yourself through. In, 1, 2, 3. Hold steady, 1, 2, 3. And exhale, 1, 2, 3. Go through that in your head. So according to research, the brain, and I mentioned this in one of my other videos, the brain is only built to handle what is 7 seconds in front of them. So if you start worrying about things that are days, weeks, months, or years out into the future, you're going to have a lot of anxiety. As hard as it is, try to focus on the moments in between the seconds. Whenever you feel like your brain is starting to drift into the future, bring yourself back to the present moment. Focus on that next breath you take, right? Become an expert on the 3-3-3 technique. Remind yourself that you can breathe. And it's just anxiety. It's temporary. Sometimes when you have anxiety, or especially an anxiety attack, it feels like you can't breathe. So focusing on this 3-3-3 technique, remind yourself that you can breathe. I hope this information has been helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the chat box below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and you can be updated when I have new videos. Hope this was helpful. It was a fun one to make. Have a great day, everybody.